6. We have fish again tonight. Oma does her usual routine, peeling off the skin and separating the bones from the flesh as Ji-yoon and I watch. My foot taps against the floor, making the table shake. Ji-yoon puts her hand on my knee to make me stop. This morning, when my mother pulled the fish out of the freezer, I decided that I was going to be brave. The mackerel sat on the counter for hours, thawing slowly, leaving behind a big pool of water that trickled into the sink. Every time I went to get a glass of water, the fish glared at me, as though it knew what I was about to do. In spite of the guilt I feel, I have to go through with it. Amma is in a terrible mood today, her spirits even lower than usual. Ji-yoon and I had to drag her out of bed this morning, and since then she has been moping. This is the only way I can think of to cheer her up and show her that I care about her. Last night my father called. It was the first time I'd heard from him since he had left. Even so, he didn't say much, letting me do most of the talking. His answers to my questions were hurried and vague. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Oh, this and that," he said. "Where are you?" "I'm close by." I could tell that he was trying to hang up as quickly as possible. Perhaps it was because of the person who was there with him. Whoever it was, they were trying to be very quiet, but failing. I could hear noises in the background, soft clicking, the click of glasses, a muffled sneeze. I pressed the phone harder to my ear, trying to listen. Who was that? Was it his new girlfriend? What did she sound like? Did she have a pretty voice? I was burning with curiosity and asked question after question, trying to make him stay. After a minute, though, Appa hung up with an abrupt goodbye. He didn't ask about Amma, who was lingering, waiting for the phone, her hand outstretched. Her face fell. "He didn't want to talk to me?" she asked. I considered lying, but what could I tell her that she didn't already know? "No," I said, feeling very sorry. "He had to go, he sounded busy." "Okay," she said in a tiny voice. Afterward, Amma began cleaning the apartment in a frenzy. Ji-yoon hovered over her as she moved from room to room, throwing me anxious glances over her shoulder. I understood why. Our father hadn't picked up his belongings after leaving, and his things were still scattered across our apartment. They surprised us unexpectedly, at worst times, and always when our defenses were lowered. I was worried about what Amma might find. The other night I stumbled upon a pair of Appa's sweaty black socks behind the laundry basket in the bathroom. They had been forgotten for months, and seeing them almost made me cry. And in the kitchen drawers I found a stack of his old credit cards, long expired, hidden underneath a pile of unopened mail. But the worst is when I find the little red and white candies that he turned to once he quit smoking. He would never be without them. Now, whenever I catch a whiff of peppermint or hear the crinkle of plastic, I feel a small zap, an electric current that runs through my entire body, a reminder that I once had a father. Are either of you feeling brave tonight? Oma asks. Her chopsticks hover over the fish's head. I am. I'll try the eye, I muster up the courage to say. My mother's face cracks open into an enormous smile. I've made the right decision. Really? You will? I nod, too afraid to open my mouth. She digs the eye out and drops it onto my empty plate. It rolls around and around, spinning wildly before coming to a stop in the middle. Go on, try it, Oma urges. Fish eyeballs are slippery. My chopstick skills, which weren't great to begin with, have been rendered useless. I concentrate and finally manage to pick up the eye, only to drop it again. It falls into the ceramic with a soft plink. Use your fingers, Amma says. Fine. I squeeze my eyes shut and feel around blindly before grasping the eyeball between my forefinger and thumb. It's surprisingly firm, nothing like how I imagined it to be. Trembling, I drop it into my mouth. As soon as it touches my tongue, I start gagging. Gross! Ji-yoon screeches, jerking back from the table. I have to remind myself that I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for Amma. She looks at me with such tenderness that I force myself to keep the eye in the mouth. The initial wave of nausea recedes, and I roll it against the middle of my cheeks. It's a strange feeling. The outside of the eyeball is fatty, almost jelly-like, with a salty, fishy flavor. Underneath the gelatinous goop, there's a hard, white sphere that tastes like nothing. I bite down, grinning at my mother, and swallow. Ta-da! I open my mouth as wide as it goes. Ji-yoon covers her eyes. Oma claps. Wow, Ji-won, she says excitedly. This means you've matured. You're all grown up now. I am? Yes. I don't point out the fact that I'm 18, the age when most people are already considered adults. I can't believe you, Ji-yoon says, her expression reproachful. You're disgusting. It's okay. You should try it too. Here. I push the plate toward her, but she swats my hand away. Leave me alone, you fish eye-eating freak. I'm not hungry anymore. I can tell that this eye is going to bring you a lot of luck, Oma says cheerfully. You'll see. Maybe you'll even get a boyfriend this year. What do you think about that? I blush. My mother is obsessed with my love life. She's constantly asking me about boys and crushes, even though I tell her the same thing every time, that I'm too busy and that I have to focus on my studies. But if I said that I didn't want to be in love just once, it would be a lie. Umma turns the fish over and tears out the other eye. I reach for it suddenly, starving. But before I can say anything, she pops it into her own mouth with a smile. All thoughts of Appa gone for the night. 7. Appa is a man with big dreams, the type of person who is smart and works hard but is held back only by the hand that fortune has dealt him. In Korean, the word for fortune is palja. It comes from the term Saju Palja, which means the four pillars of destiny. These four pillars are based on the year, month, day, and hour of a person's birth, and according to my father, these seemingly meaningless components determine whether your brief existence will be good or bad before you even have the opportunity to live. For as long as I can remember, my father has always lamented his palja. As a child, he grew up in one of the poorest villages in Busan, even poorer than my mother and her family, if such a thing is possible. His parents were farmers who were driven from their land during the Japanese occupation, left penniless with only the clothing on their backs. They were uneducated and, having never stepped inside of a school, had never learned to read or write. Appa and his two older sisters faced similar fates. All three of them worked to help support the family from the moment they could walk and talk, selling roasted sweet potatoes on street corners, watching other children go to school. For Appa's sisters, this was enough. They were resigned to their fate. They would sell potatoes until they found some other meager job, after which they would get married to some other poor fool, another person whose lousy palja matches theirs. Appa, however, fought against his destiny every chance he had. He taught himself to read and write by digging through piles of trash for discarded newspapers. In his free time, when he wasn't begging for money or looking for work, he stayed up late, reading them cover to cover, sounding out the words silently in his head. For him, words were magic. The people who knew how to use them, who were able to bend them to their will, sat in their nice houses and ate meat with every meal. They walked by in their fancy Western clothing, in crisp suits and shirts so luxurious he longed to run his fingers over them. Words, he understood, were a way into that world. Eventually he saved up enough money to take the college entrance exam. His score earned him an article in the newspaper, second page, small, only 4 lines long, as well as a spot at the best school in the country, Seoul National University. If my father had been anybody else, that would have been the end of his troubles. Seoul National University is a school that opens doors even when all of them should be locked shut. But for some strange reason, Appa couldn't find a decent job after graduating. There was nobody who could help him, nobody who could get him into one of the towering office buildings he looked at longingly each day. Finally, after years of trying, he gave up, resigned to an unfulfilling life of menial labor. One day my father received a letter in the mail. It was from Min Ho, a friend he hadn't spoken to in many years. Min Ho had moved to California and opened a shoe repair shop. The work was good and he needed someone to help him. He remembered that my father was a hard worker and skilled with his hands. "If you can come, I'll have a job waiting for you," the letter promised. "You won't regret it. California is an incredible place." His address was scrawled underneath. Appa knew nothing about California, except when he had heard in passing and seen in movies. Supposedly it was a place where people grew fat and rich in their enormous houses and loud American cars. It was a place where dreams came true. It didn't take him long to decide. Within a week, he had spent the entirety of his savings on a one-way plane ticket to Los Angeles. Anything that didn't fit in his suitcase was given away, and as he boarded the plane, Appa swore that he would leave his bad luck behind. As soon as he got to California, my father began working. He had never fixed shoes before, but he was a fast learner. Minho was right. Soon, Appa was making more money than he had ever had in Seoul. A year later, Minho's wife introduced my father to my mother for the first time. The four of them went on double dates, meeting over dinner and drinks. My mother and father stayed at the restaurant for hours, long after Minho and his wife had gone home. 6 short weeks later, they were married, and Appa was certain that his luck had changed for good. When Amma told me the story of how they met, she said that it was love at first sight. Not for me, of course, she giggled. For your father. He was smitten from the moment he laid eyes on me. He took me to Gladstone's in Malibu. Have you heard of it? It's famous. The failing dry cleaning business was purchased for cheap when Ji-yoon was in middle school and I was in high school. The previous owners had given up on it and they were desperate to get out. Appa didn't care. He saw potential in the building's peeling walls and cracked ceilings. He painted and fixed every inch of it himself, spending long hours there each day, and soon his hard work paid off. With their newfound success, my parents bought the house. It was nothing special, a small, shabby, and one-story, only slightly bigger than the cockroach-infested apartment we were living in at the time. But for Appa, it meant everything. Months after we moved in, my mother had a dream. In it, the store, the house, and everything they owned went up in flames. Amma woke up terrified, but Appa was thrilled. To him, the fire was an omen, a sign of good luck. 8 months later, Minho, whom they had lost touch with over the years, called my father out of the blue. He had an investment opportunity, a new business that he was planning on opening in Koreatown, close to where we lived. Umma was uneasy at his sudden reappearance in their lives, but Appa was certain that this was what her dreams had been about. Unfortunately, my mother was right. There was no investment opportunity, no business. Minho was deeply in debt due to a gambling addiction, and fearing his debtors and their threats, took the cash and ran. We never heard from him again. Overnight, everything my parents worked for crumbled into dust and blew away. You can cheat destiny once, maybe twice if you're lucky. But as Koreans, we understand that the course of our lives is invariably determined by our palja. When my father was here, I could sense his longing, even if my mother and sister were oblivious to it. The dreamy look on his face when he was lost in his thoughts. The way his mouth went slack at random moments during the day. I knew he was imagining a way to escape his small, inconsequential life. Our small, inconsequential life. He hated the tiny apartment we moved into after we lost the house. He hated the way the rooms were pushed up next to each other so that there wasn't a modicum of privacy for any of us. He hated that I had not been born a boy, and that Ji-yoon hadn't been either. He hated Omar's dented, 20-year-old Honda, but he hated his broken-down truck even more. He hated arguing with the landlord every month about the rent. He hated the dry cleaning business had closed after 2 short years. More than anything, he hated that everything in his life served as a reminder of his failures. I don't blame him. Maybe because I know what it's like to live a life so defined by want. That's why I was able to recognize it in him. It was what I had been feeling for so long. 8. The night I eat my first fish-eye, I have a hard time falling asleep. I lay awake remembering the salty flavor. In the morning I snooze my alarm over and over until Ji-yoon prods me awake. I open my eyes and find her hovering over me, the ends of her hair tickling my face. "You missed the bus," she says, a little too cheerfully. "What?" Wide awake, I scramble out of bed. "What the hell, Ji-yoon? Why did you let me sleep for so long?" My sister frowns. "It's not my job to wake you up." She hurries out the door, and I catch a glimpse of her sleeve. It's a familiar lilac color. She's wearing my favorite sweater. "I saw that," I yell after her. "If I catch you going through my stuff again, you're dead." Luckily, Amma hands me her car keys without a fight. I drop her off at work on the way to school, ignoring her demands to slow down. Cars honk as I drift from lane to lane. By the time we get to the grocery store, my mother's face is ashen. "Stop driving like that," she scolds, before stumbling away. I get to my philosophy lecture 10 minutes late. The only open seat left is in the far corner in the back, and I slither over to it, hyper-aware of the people staring at me. When I sit down, I accidentally bump knees with a pretty black girl next to me. The line of piercings in her ear distracts me momentarily, but I regain my bearings and whisper a hurried apology in her direction. She nods and mouths, "It's okay." The boy on the other side makes eye contact with me before flashing a toothy grin. He's white, with big brown eyes and long hair that flops past his ears. Above his upper lip there's a wisp of a mustache. He's wearing a black statement t-shirt that I can't fully read from this angle. All I can see are the words, "She persisted," in block letters on his back. When he shifts back his seat, the front reads, "Nevertheless." Soon the adrenaline from missing the bus weaves off. A woozy fatigue overwhelms my body. My head droops onto the desk. I sleep through the entire lecture and wake up just before it ends, in desperate need of a fluffy pillow. If I had the choice, I would return home, crawl into bed, and sleep for the rest of the day. But I have 2 classes left, with hour-long breaks in between. And because I overslept this morning, I didn't have a chance to make myself a cup of coffee. I sit outside the nearest on-campus coffee shop and stare at it. Everything they sell is overpriced. Normally the idea of being extorted to buy a $7 cup of coffee is too much, but today I'm so tired that I'm willing to bend the rules. When the door opens, an earthy, smoky aroma wafts out. As usual, the line is long. Everyone waiting appears miserable. I shuffle past the stands covered with chunky, colorful mugs and display bags of fresh, coffee beans to stand behind a group of tall, broad-shouldered, white boys. Even though it's cold outside, they are wearing matching, loose-fitting tank tops with Greek symbols and athletic shorts. The one in the front with the backward cap and blond hair looks vaguely familiar. I study him curiously, stepping a little closer to scan his profile. It's loud. The coffee grinder whirs and stops repeatedly. Every time there's a break in the noise, I catch snippets of their conversation. "I hooked up with Sharon last night," Backward Cap says, smirking. He's pale and pink-cheeked with a deep dimple in his chin. "Dude, nice." "She's hot, but she's got no tits," the tall freckled one replies. "Yeah, but she more than makes up for it in bed. Does whatever you want and begs for more. Everything they say about Asian chicks? Totally true." "You know what they say, once you go Asian, you never go Caucasian," the freckled one says. They burst into laughter and I stumble backward, desperate to disappear. My face is red and prickly. I step on the person behind me who yelps in surprise. "I'm so sorry," I say, staring at the ground. I'm afraid of making eye contact with the obnoxious assholes in front of me. "It's okay. Wait, didn't I just see you in my last class?" Startled, I look up. It's Mr. She Persisted from Philosophy 4. He sticks his hand out to me and I shake it reluctantly. My palms are clammy. I wipe them on my jeans. "What's your name?" he asks. "G. Won," I say. I glance apprehensively at the boys in front. Are they watching me? Their backs are turned now and I can't help but find that behavior suspicious. Do they know that I heard everything? The boy from philosophy is still talking, but I interrupt him. "Sorry, I have to go." "Oh, where?" "I don't know. Anywhere. Outside, I guess." He follows, reaching carefully around my shoulder to open the door for me. I slip out and sit at one of the nearby tables, waiting for my heart to stop pounding. "I was telling you my name inside," he continues, sitting next to me. "It's Geoffrey, but with a G, not a J. It's spelled Geoffrey. "Did you hear what they said?" I ask, interrupting Kim. "No. Why?" His eyes narrow. I take a deep breath. My voice quivers. "I don't want to." Geoffrey with a G leans forward and crosses his legs, his right elbow on his knee. We are sitting in the exact same position, our bodies mirror images of each other. I won't judge. My face grows warm. He waits patiently, one eyebrow quirked upward. "You seem upset. Can I help?" Tears fill my eyes, and I stare down into my lap, trying to keep them from falling. There's a light touch on my shoulder. I look up, surprised, and see Geoffrey's hand gently patting my arm. It reminds me of all the times I used to comfort Ji-yoon when she was little. "Don't cry," he says. "We don't have to talk about it." Then he retracts his hand, biting his lip. "Sorry, I'm not very good at making people feel better." I never know what to do. No, no, I respond. I understand. I'm not good at comforting people either. I always say the opposite of what I'm supposed to say. I get it. I feel better already. There's a long silence between us. It makes me nervous. Without thinking, I blurt out, "Those guys in there were talking about Asian women, saying disgusting things about us." I swallow hard. I mean, I've heard all this before, it's not new, and it's not even like those guys were talking about me, but it felt so personal. Geoffrey clenches his jaw. His hands ball into fists. Who were they? He turns around, as if he's going to rush back into the coffee shop. No, it's fine, I say, flustered. Forget I said anything. It's not fine. Those guys are assholes. If you Google toxic masculinity, you'll probably find pictures of those clowns. They don't understand all the shit that you women have to put up with. It's important that women feel safe around me. You don't have anything to be embarrassed about. They are the ones who should be embarrassed. I stare at him dumbfounded. You're right. He gets up from the table. I have to catch my next class now, but you're good, right? He puts out his right hand to give me a fist bump. I nod and tap his fist with my own. Thanks for sticking around and talking to me. Anytime. I'll see you in philosophy on Thursday. I watch him disappear into a crowd of students before getting up. It's strange. I can't think of the last time somebody was this kind to me. 9. When I get home in the late afternoon, Ji-yoon is alone, pacing back and forth in our room. That isn't saying much since our room is so small. Between our bed and the desk, tucked in the corner, there's only enough space for her to take 2 or 3 steps. Nevertheless, her apprehension is palpable. I drop my backpack on the floor. What's wrong? Did something happen at school? I ask. No, she says. Have you noticed anything strange with Amma lately? I sit on the edge of the bed and peel off my socks one by one. Ji-yoon doesn't say anything about me sitting on it in my outside clothes, something she complains about often. Not really. Why? Haven't you heard her on the phone lately? At night? She sits on the bed next to me, frowning. Not in her room, but in the bathroom. She has been turning on the fan so we can't hear. What? Are you sure you're not imagining things? I pinch her on the arm, but there isn't even a hint of a smile on her face. I'm not. I think she's talking to a man. No way. Mom's still, well, you know. I don't think so. It's been nearly 3 months now since. She hesitates and stops, her words trailing off mid-sentence. Her hand hovers above her ankle. Ji-yoon is a worrier, someone who is constantly thinking 10 steps ahead. When she was a baby, she scratched her ankles raw until they were left bleeding and infected. At the hospital, the doctor told our parents that Ji-yoon's scratching was stress-induced. Oma and Appa had laughed afterward, saying, "What could a 2-year-old possibly be stressed about?" But even now there's an ugly purple scar on my sister's otherwise unblemished ankle. Whenever she's feeling apprehensive, she rubs at the spot absent-mindedly. I grab her wrist. "Stop," I tell her. "You're going to make it worse." "I can't make it worse," she mumbles. Suddenly she looks right at me. "I found divorce papers. Appa filed them as soon as he left. There's a waiting period, but it'll be finalized in 3 months." My heart stops in my chest. Amma hasn't mentioned anything about divorce, and I think, in some ways, Jiyun and I, without ever verbalizing it, were convinced that things would work themselves out. It doesn't help that divorce is almost unimaginable in our culture. All the unhappy married couples that our parents know stay together, no matter what. "Pay attention to her tonight," Ji-yoon says softly. She puts her head on my shoulder. Neither of us says anything, but I can't help but wonder what my sister is thinking. Does she remember that night in July when she asked me if things were going to be okay? Does she remember that I lied? Ji-yoon is right. Amma is cheerful, too cheerful. When I take a closer look at her, I realize that she's glowing. She has regained some of the weight she lost when Appa first left, and her cheeks are fuller, rounder, giving her a more youthful appearance. Her eyes are animated and lively. She excuses herself from the dinner table several times and disappears into the bathroom. I strain to listen through the whirring of the fan. Quiet, muted giggles drift over to us, and my sister raises her eyebrows. "What did I say?" she whispers. "We need to do something." Her hand has already attached itself to her ankle, rubbing at it furiously. "Do what? Who cares if she has a boyfriend?" "I care. It's only been a few months." Ji-yoon's voice rises in pitch. "She's vulnerable and sad, and what if he's a scammer, preying on her while she's still susceptible? Don't you think it's strange that she has met someone so quick? What if he's a serial killer? Have you thought of that?" Our mother has a strict daily schedule that makes it difficult for her to meet people. She works at the Korean grocery store a few miles away, usually from morning to evening, and she rarely has time off. She has no hobbies and a handful of friends she hasn't kept in contact with since our father left. We suspect it's because she's embarrassed about her situation. "It could be someone from work," I offer. "Are you even listening to yourself? Who at her work is an eligible bachelor?" Nearly everyone Amma works with is female, with the exception of Mr. Lee, the elderly manager. But there's no way he's my mother's secret boyfriend. He's far too old. Just as Ji-yoon is opening her mouth to respond, the bathroom door creaks open. We resume our places, pretending like we haven't been talking. Amma sits down. Her cheeks are flushed. "Who were you talking to?" Ji-yoon asks. "What? I wasn't talking to anybody. I was using the toilet," Amma says hurriedly. She tucks her hair behind her ear. "Unni says that she heard you talking to someone in there," Ji-yoon insists. I kick her under the table as hard as I can. She doesn't flinch. Oma lets out a nervous giggle. "No, Ji-won, you are imagining things," she says, patting my shoulder. I glare at Ji-yoon, hoping to transfer thoughts from my head to hers. "You're dead," I think. My sister seems to have received the message because she sticks her tongue out at me. In our room, I chase Ji-yoon and pin her to the ground. "Apologize," I say. "Apologize, or else—" She fights, beating against me with her fists, but her attempts are pointless. I'm twice as big as she is. I tickle her until she's screeching, tears rolling down her cheeks, and when I finally let her go, she's so furious that she aims a kick at my head. She misses, of course. I'm faster than her, too. "You're the worst. I'm never talking to you again," she says, before storming off. 10. 1 week later, Amma finally tells us the truth. By then, it's impossible for her to keep pretending like nothing is happening. She has been coming home later and later in the evenings, under the guise of working later shifts, even though Ji-yoon and I are both fully aware that the grocery store closes at 7 every night. Her furtive calls in the bathroom are also much more frequent and obvious. "Can I tell you girls something?" she asks. She's nervous and fidgety, fiddling with the faded couch cushions. There's a cracked vase on the side table next to the couch, the one Appa used to hate. Amma never let him throw it out because it was a gift from her mother, who passed away years ago. She runs her fingers along the split, and I find myself wondering, is it my father she's remembering, or her mother? Ji-yoon curls up next to her. Amma puts her arm around her shoulders. I stand a few steps away, my hands shoved in my pockets. "What is it? What do you want to tell us?" I ask. "I'm dating someone," Amma says with a girlish shyness. Her Korean is excited, high-pitched. The words lilt upward, sing-song. "I've been seeing him for a little over a month now." "You are?" Ji-yoon asks, feigning surprise. "Is it serious?" "Very serious," Amma says. "I wouldn't tell you otherwise. He knows all about you and your sister, and he's excited to meet you both. We were thinking about having lunch together, the four of us. What do you think?" She pats Ji-yoon's back. Ji-yoon stiffens. "Who is he? Do we know him?" "No, no." Omma's cheeks turn a dark red, the color of the gochugaru flakes she uses so often in her cooking. "I met him at work." "At work?" Ji-yoon and I blurt at the same time. When I turn to Ji-yoon, her mouth is hanging agape. "Please tell me it's not Mr. Lee," I groan. "Of course not. Don't be silly. He's a customer." Before I can address this shocking news, Amma babbles on. "He was shopping for groceries and asked me to help him. Before he left, he asked for my number and we went on a date. His name is George. He's a wonderful man. He has a good job and he's so charming. You'll love him, I promise." "I'm sure we will." Behind her, Ji-yoon rolls her eyes so that only I can see. "Oh, and another thing." Amma hesitates. "He's white." "What?" Way to bury the lid, Ji-yoon shouts. Her voice is deafening. I clap my hand over her mouth. She bites down, leaving my palm slick with her spit. How did you meet a white man at the Korean market? I ask, wiping my hand on my shirt. There's a crescent imprinted on my palm from Ji-yoon's teeth. I make a mental note to get her back later. I know it sounds crazy, but George is a very special man. He's not like anyone else I've ever met. He's appreciative of all cultures, but especially Korean culture, because he was stationed in Seoul when he was in the military. He can speak our language too, better than you or Jiyoon at least. Isn't that amazing? If you say so, Jiyoon says. There's a lull in the conversation, and in the ensuing quiet, I feel myself floating away from my body, circling it like an untethered balloon. The apartment seems foreign. Dizzy, I glance at the cracked walls and popcorn ceiling. Was that water stain always there? Has the carpet always been this discolored? Why is everything we own broken? The vase, the scratched up coffee table, the dying plants that Oma gave up on a while back. In between the missing slats of our window blinds, the sun's setting rays flicker through weakly. Are you happy? Jiyoon asks our mother abruptly. Her question brings me back. I shake my head and return to myself. Very, Amma says, smiling. I don't know what's worse, the feeling in my chest or the look on my sister's face. It's fleeting, passing, so quickly that Oma misses it. In that second, though, Ji-yoon's sorrow and anguish, all of it, is written so clearly in her expression that I have to fight the urge to grab her and hold her tight. Then the shutters come up again, as though nothing is wrong. That's great, she says. Really, really great. I'm so happy for you, Mama.